there. Thanks for coming, folks. So today we're with my friend Corey Cooper from Boat right across the way.
Short little walk.
Holly Evans from Wainani, Surf and SUP. Heather Menzer from SUP Flow. And Kristen Thomas representing Ambassador for Infinity and Warner, right? Okay. And coming back the other way, Heather does a service business, and Holly does a service business and retail, basically. And Corey's representing the industry here.
Whoa,
So, it's a lot of weight, buddy.
industry.
The whole industry, and they're watching. So let's start just by going down the line here. Give us a minute or two on where you see this market today.
Well, hello everyone. I'm, as Tyler said, I'm Corey. I'm with Boat Boards, just right behind us here. We've been doing this for, it feels like an eternity now, but it's only been 8 years, I think. It's been really awesome. We've got to see the SUP industry basically come from, its infancy as a surf, race culture derivative and kind of merge into where we're at now, which is, from my standpoint, I guess to the point of this whole thing existing is it's becoming more of a lifestyle-based business to where people are looking at this as, at least from my standpoint, not all about performance, but more about, the recreation side of things, having a good time with their families, their friends, and just having it much more approachable. And so for me, I think that's, where this industry is going. As you can see, I mean, look how, kind of crowded everything is in this space. And so, I don't know.
Hi, I'm Holly Evans. So I own a retail location in the Midwest, and I also have service offerings with lessons and group events. But I've been in the business for 7 years, and what I've noticed especially is how the early days of SUP was all these early adopters who were passionate about the sport. They were willing to spend $1,000 upwards to $2,000 and more on a board. They had those people, they were ready to buy. And now we've definitely entered a place where it's in the masses. And now everyone and their brother is pretty much doing it. So that's one thing I've noticed with the sport. And we need to make sure that we still create excitement and community to keep those people engaged and get them excited so that we don't lose them. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more that we have to say about that with certain ideas that we've executed that have been very successful, maybe some things that weren't so successful, and I look forward to sharing that with you. But that's what I see in the industry from my experience over the 7-8 years.
My name is Heather Menzer. I'm with SUP Flow. I'm a retailer as well as very connected with my community. I live in a master plan community, and I wear 2 hats. I chair a community paddleboard club. We have almost 400 members now, and the community has about 5,000 homes. Is that right? And we're growing to about 20,000 homes. So we're a fun. It's here, right? Yeah. So it started off with just a few people excited to get on the water, wanted to experience it, and now we throw some pretty fun shindigs. We just had a great luau that we provided all the boards for, and our focus really is about community. It's really about engaging together, hanging out together. We meet every week on Sundays for SUP Sunday. It's a great family day on the beach. And we have all kinds of activities that we plan together as a group, as a community that I chair. And I do also own a retail location, so it does come back to me that way. I do get lifetime buyers from building those relationships. So that's me.
I'm here representing ambassadors, but in terms of big picture and where we are, we believe we're through that exponential growth phase. We are still growing. Stand-up paddling is still attractive. It is still something people want to do and have not done yet out there. So there is growth. There's definitely some growing pains in the industry. But what we're talking about here is about community and growing community. And from 7, 8 years ago when I started racing, it was so much about that. We used to say, do great people stand up paddleboard, or does stand up paddleboard turn people into great people? It just seemed like everybody you met was excited about what they were doing, super enthusiastic. And while it's this independent, individual sport that you can do by yourself, and many of us love that part of it, getting out in nature and having that peaceful moment, there's also this huge interest and need for community. And so that's what this panel is about, is the different ways that community has grown.
So that's all good stuff. And just to elaborate a little bit more on Kristen's point, SUP IA, which Holly and I and Kristen and Anthony over there are all part of, does, oh, and Heather, excuse me, and you're a member, okay. Sorry, I was just thinking on the board. Okay, my bad. But we actually do research every year, and this will be the 4th year in a row that we've done a manufacturing survey, and the 5th year we've done a participation survey. So one of the things that we know from that is that participation rates as of last year were still climbing. They had flattened a little bit from the skyrocket trajectory that they'd had for the last 6 or 7 years, but we're still solid growth. And so, you know, this sport is so accessible for anybody on any body of water, but as we heard from the panel, we are hitting that mass phase, and the early adopters are on their 2nd, 3rd, 4th boards, and the people that are buying boards for the first time now are sort of the late adopters, we would say. And, you know, it's about welcoming them too. So we're here to talk about community, and from your guys' standpoint, we'll just go right back down the line again. What do you see in your area that benefits your business by doing a community outreach, and how do you engage with your community?
Well, I'll start from my perspective, from the manufacturer side. We have a little different approach, obviously, because we have a larger reach nationwide, and so for us to kind of focus on little, pockets and areas is really challenging. And we understand that throughout the United States, there's a variety of different little segments and lifestyles and the things that people like to do. And so from our standpoint, what we've tried to do is paint the picture through storytelling. And what we've done with our brand specifically is, use ambassadors, use people that are associated with our brand to do kind of, stories and highlights of these guys using the products, and not just, purely product focused, but also lifestyle focused, and showing how it fits in with these personalities. And so it kind of opens the market for, a variety of different people to connect with the brand and the business. And, so it's really relatable. And I think is our goal, is to try to make it very inclusive and to try to touch as many people as we can, and try to, make it blossom in terms of different areas of the country and the way that people approach stand-up paddling. So it's not just, coastal driven, or it's not just, some of these, I guess I'd call it like select regional things, and really try to open it up. And it's quite challenging, honestly, because stand-up paddling for the most part is a seasonal business. It's generally done in the warmer times of the year. And from a manufacturer's side, it's to keep moving this forward and to build these communities. It's the lifeblood of the business, because these guys can tell the stories, they can get other people into it, they can share the experiences with other guys and be more inclusive because of it. And I think overall, it's from our standpoint, the way we go to market with business, it really helps our business maintain that velocity and energy. And it's for me, it's more. I enjoy more storytelling and just more about having people have fun than being so product focused and generated on that, because it just gets boring, man. I feel like a scumbag if I'm sitting here going, hey, look at this, look how cool this is, blah, blah, blah. Just like, it's cool. Have a good time. So that's our approach at it. Anyways.
Thank you, Corey. And I've got a perspective from a retailer standpoint. So I'm a retailer that also offers services for paddleboarding. But how I tie those together is I'm trying to create opportunities to get people onto the water to test the product out. And what I found is when I get people out there on the water, they're loving it. So Susie, for example, who's buying a board from me, brings her friend Mary along to go and paddle with my group. And then Mary's like, oh my God, I love this. This is great. We're having fun. We're with a group of people. And then she comes to me and wants to buy a board. So everything becomes very, very sticky. One thing about that too is when people are buying the equipment, you just don't say, okay, here's a sale, and then off they go and you never see them again. But when you create events to keep them engaged with you and your business and your brand, they just keep coming back. They love it. And I found this to be really, really effective, especially with females around the 30 plus. They crave that kind of engagement and social connection. I'm a 44-year-old female. I can speak from experience. We want that connection with people. We're so busy with our lives, not that you guys are either, but that area especially I found highly effective. So if you can reach out to people in a social way, in a very non-intimidating way, I can tell you right now, that's gonna keep coming back to you, and that word of mouth is gonna spread like crazy. So really engage with them, keep the business sticky, inclusive, exactly. And I found that a lot of my competitors out there who weren't doing that, they were sticking to traditional retail practices of just selling boards and you never see them again. I was blowing my business out of the water, no pun intended, compared to them. And so keep it sticky. Keep giving them reasons to engage with you and your brand. And even if you do it for free, it comes back to you tenfold or more. So I'm sure Heather has a lot to add too with her retail and her experiences as well.
So we are very similar. I do have the retail side of it and the club side of it. And the club side of it has really allowed us to sort of get a pilot feel of what it means to engage with a group of people. And we're starting to introduce that into our business more. But what it allows us to do is really engage people in experiences, in providing experiences with group outings, group activities. You know, I keep hearing the buzzword that millennials want these experiences, but it's not just millennials. I mean, people that are attracted to this sport are from young to old and of all different sizes and shapes, and they are excited to try it and nervous. And when you have that connection where it's very casual and social, then and you're willing to be out on the water with them and have an experience with them, you're engaging them in the sport. And that's where you do build that lifetime customer clientele. You're not just making a sale. Now, even if they're buying a board from somebody else or a board that's less expensive, we don't hold that stigma with them on a less expensive board. We feel like, great, that's going to get you on the water, and you're going to end up passing that off to your 10-year-old, and you're going to come back to us for your second board. And when your son starts racing and getting excited, you're going to come talk to us, because part of that social aspect is also allowing for time for education. They're going to ask you questions about everything from product to experiences to what's the trends in the industry to safety. Being able to educate them on the different types of boards all the way to things that the general public still are learning, like safety. So, yeah.
And I'm representing a little different group in being the ambassador end of things. But what I think is really interesting, that there's that 90% we say that's the Is this working? Yeah. I don't know. I know I'm loud. It's ringing in my ears. There's the 90%, and you talked about the entry level and how essential that is. We have this sport that is still growing, that we can still bring people, often non-water people, to the water for the first time, and safety and all those things, so essential. Oddly, I'm here, mid-50s, representing the athletes, because that's what's kind of special about stand-up paddleboarding. Not only is it half women, but there are different demographics. So it's not that I'm a pro, and I don't want to take anything away from the professional athletes who are trying to make a living at this, but you can't believe how geeked up I was to be in my 50s and have someone offer to me at this age to be an athlete and to be able to be sponsored by a board company and a paddle company and to be spreading the word. And that is, though, about the enthusiasm and joy that I get out of this and social media. And I have 3 millennials, so I had help in learning how to hashtag and use social media. But when I have 5,000 Facebook friends and you max out, you're able to spread the word a little bit more easily about what fun that you're having. So we hope that that translates then into sales, into bringing people to the sport, but people want to stay in it, and they might want to get into those smaller segments that I participate in, like surfing, like racing, like whitewater. I still like an adrenaline rush at this age, and it's awesome that we can still get it and that I can still have new experiences at this stage in my second childhood in life.
Well, that's cool. So can we go back down the line again, and let me ask you guys now, what do you do specifically in your business to build community or to engage the community around you?
Jesus, that's a giant question. Well, I mean, for me, it starts with the company in itself, the employees, the people that work for us. I think, I can't quote who said it, but the theory that your business and your employees should be your first customers, and should be involved in the lifestyle, for us, to me, applies probably more than anything, because if the people aren't stoked about what you're doing, and if there's not a lot of energy internally, then, it dies fast, and it becomes a lot more challenging to develop the business. And so for me, it starts there. And we do a lot of different things for ourselves at our facilities. We have demo days for our employees on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We do, team buildings inside. We'll throw lunch every Wednesday, bring in beer, tequila shots, people having a good time. Obviously, we try to still get work done. But no, I think it's from my perspective, that's where it starts internally, because then they're much more, able to help build it outward bound, in their communities, at trade shows, through photography, through videos, through whatever. And, it starts there. And if, like I said, if my team hated it, I wouldn't be here. They're just as important to all of us, and they're important to help, keep our business growing. And I think that's part of the paddle community. I mean, that's why most people got involved in this. It's the number one thing that I think people are, they gravitate to come and work for us, is that they love the lifestyle. They love, what stand-up paddling is. And without that, I mean, I say all the time, I could be selling light bulbs, and then, what the challenge for me would be, I wouldn't even know how to approach that, right? It's like, how do you get everybody fired up? So that's where we start. And, I know they can give the outward bound perspective, in terms of everything else. But for me, it's internal. And so that's my number one goal, keep everybody happy and doing badass shit.
And he does badass shit. So, it's funny because in my market, I see the retailers that work with you, and they follow that same lifestyle that you've created. I mean, you've created a brand, and you can tell those retailers are so into that brand, and they project it out. I mean, you've got them. You are bringing them in, and I've seen it firsthand in my market especially. So if you're a manufacturer, these guys are doing a great job, and stick to something like that you want to attach yourself to, and then feed it out to your retailers like myself. And I tell you, what a great way to just extend all that. So what I do as a retailer, the specific things, I would say create some kind of event, again, after the sale, so that you can stay connected with them. So whether that be a special event like what Heather does, a family paddle, or a Bloody Mary bar, whatever it is you want to do, have something for them after the fact. Reach out to them with your email marketing, create those email lists for sure, and just stay connected with them, but give them something to keep coming back to you. And they're going to come back for accessories. Again, they're going to share their story with their friends. Most of my business is repeat customers and word of mouth. I track it closely. And I would say for sure, probably at least 3/4 of my business is those two things: Yep, referrals. So I feel like I'm doing something right. So they're liking this. They like the vibe, they like the gig, and they are beautiful brand ambassadors for me that I don't have to pay. And I'm like, woo, yeah, this is direct. And the one thing I want to say too is when you do this, be authentic. You know, don't be salesy, don't be pushy. I think why it works for me is I love stand-up paddleboarding. I am passionate. When I'm out there, I am not selling, and I purposely try to not even bring up sales because I want the people to know that I just want to be one of them. I want to be out there socially paddling. So if you can really try to be completely authentic, anytime that it gets a little salesy, you can tell people get turned off. And then they're like, well, what's your hidden agenda? And I don't want them to have that vibe. So I would say what not to do is to, push sales on there. Just let it come natural to you. And I don't know if you have anything that didn't work for you that you can think of on top of your head in what you do. Was there anything you tried that didn't work? Everything. Yeah, just keep trying.
Fail 5 times for the one success.
Yeah, don't give up. Don't. So those are some of the things specifically that I would suggest, and I'm sure Heather and
I think that's Daybreak right there, actually. Kurger?
On the water.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's her location.
That's our location. That's kind of fun.
Awesome. Let's hear what you do specifically, Heather.
So I feel really fortunate and blessed to be connected and tied to such a cool community that has a vibe of community. The master plan developers have a lot of interest and invested in building community. So they do a lot of events. And I get to be a part of a lot of their events. And that's how we grow, is by being a part of their festivals, their activities. They're constantly doing fun things for the community. And we stay in touch through Facebook for our events and how we talk about upcoming things. But really, my clientele is repeat. That is my lake right there. That makes me so happy. So yeah, I feel fortunate and blessed. That's where I get to reach out more to my community by being involved in these community events, by being involved in, my goal at these shows are really just for brand awareness. They're not to make a buck. I don't usually go trying to make a sale. I go trying to make connections. And it's been working great for me. So.
From the athlete side, I want to start with, I think our pro athletes are beyond amazing because we're small enough, only been around 10 years. We ask them to be good at every single type of stand-up paddleboarding. So these people can surf big waves, race a marathon, do a sprint, do whitewater, Oh, not all of them. We got an expert down here. And that's super important. But then there's that other step we talked about with ambassadors being approachable, reachable, accessible, looking like someone like, oh, if she can do it, I should be able to do this too. Is it a really important level of this? In terms of events, I've had a lot of discussions about race, being on the race side, that we need more races that can include / events. They don't even always have to be races. But even the races, there needs to be, if you're on flat water, and hopefully many of them are, that shorter race, that race that's called a beginner race, that's called first timer, where it's fun. They should all be about fun, but they get a little serious. But we need to have that because as people are excited, become part of community, or want to be a part of community, when I first bought my board and I didn't know anybody else who was stand-up paddleboarding, I went to a race 3 weeks later after practicing in my full wetsuit because it was January and figuring out, oh, this is really too hot. Really had no clue. And I thought, well, I'll chase people around in a race to figure out how to paddle. And that was and I was hooked immediately in that first race because I met fantastic people. So I probably have raced a lot, like a couple hundred races, because I go to destination races, especially for the people, for the event. Sometimes there are people like, oh, you love that race. I'm like, did not love the race. It was super hard, or maybe it wasn't that well run, but the event was fantastic. So again, it's about community and people and building that. I do have to throw in kind of along the lines, just because I'm a sales rep, I really try when I go into stores, especially as I expand out of SUP retail into the other stores that are selling SUP secondarily, and try to do staff training, because it's so essential that first experience from the get-go be positive. The first experience on the water needs to be safe and positive and fun, but so does that retail experience. And a lot of the staff don't know how to tell them how to take the board home or what equipment they need, which is an upsell, which is super important to retail too, you know. So they need to be trained to say, hey, the Coast Guard law is that you need a PFD, so you know, up to you, but we would recommend you buying that. And we also think leashes are really important. This is the appropriate type for the water that you're going to be on, and yeah, how to use it, how are you getting home, and so the staff needs to know that too, and from the beginning. And there's no reason why you shouldn't have a positive experience the first time you go out on a stand-up paddleboard.
All right. Well said. Well said. So before we get into questions, just to sort of recap, we've heard about what community does for everybody's individual business here. We've heard how authenticity is so important in transferring that. And all of you know instinctively from your experience that paddling by yourself, unless you're just bent on training or riding waves by yourself, it's not really that fun, right? It's a lot more fun when you share it with someone else or a group of other people. It's a social. Exactly. It's a social experience. And, you know, paddling is the type of activity that allows you to talk to someone and communicate and carry on a conversation while you're doing it. So the people that are leveraging that are successful. I mean, when I met Holly, she had the largest tribe of people in the Midwest. And I thought she was so far ahead of her time. It was like, gosh, that's what this sport is lacking in a lot of places. There's so many people that are so focused on racing or surfing, but they're missing the community. People out there naturally want to belong to a group of like-minded people that they can laugh and share stories with and have camaraderie with, a group that they feel like they belong to. And the businesses that are leveraging development of those communities in this sport are flourishing, and those that are not, maybe not so much. So on that note, do any of you have any what not to do's? Because you hit a chord on that of, you know, some of the stuff you've tried. Is it anybody want to share a story of like, oh, I tried this and don't do it? Oh, we got one.
I don't know if it's about actual community, but we talk about being intentional about the aloha, which was really easy at the beginning because we're all excited too, but that we have to remember to be positive with first-time paddlers and not, no offense to surfing, but, you know, like, oh, God, there's another person coming in my area, you know, do I want one more, or not in my backyard kind of attitude, I guess. Is that for the sake of the business, we need to grow it because there is 70% of the earth is water and we can find water. We need to help continue that positive outlook that I think we have pretty naturally now, but won't always last.
I have something small to add. So this panel is about growing SUP through lifestyle and community. And so one comment about this, and I'm sure many of you are already doing this, you're smart retailers, businessmen, but I noticed a lot of businesses or some of my competitors, when they were talking SUP in the beginning, oh, all these features, it's got this amount of liters and it's, you know, it's got this plug, but people didn't understand what that meant. You know, I found out that when I was selling boards, what was really connecting with people was creating that image, that picture. I would sell to the female, like I mentioned before, 30, 55, about putting her kid on the board, throwing her pet on there, doing yoga, creating that imagery and lifestyle. And I really feel like that sold it. You know, here you can go out and have a sunset paddle with a glass of wine. And that was the kind of thing that really, I think, resonated with my customers, was creating the benefit. And they're like, oh my God, my life is so chaotic, but wow, I can take that paddleboard out on that beautiful calm water, enjoy a sunset with a nice glass of Pinot. Ooh, I get excited. So remember that too when you're selling. You know, really share that lifestyle, and that especially now, people want that experience. Nowadays, we're competing against so much, but paint those pictures. Corey, you got to look at his videos. He's creating a lifestyle and that imagery. And if you want to be cool and badass fisherman and out there, you know, create that picture, paint that picture for them, and that is going to do so well for you versus just talking about these little features that a lot of these people just don't quite know what that means. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, Corey created a lifestyle around a cooler. I'm serious. Go watch the video. So, any?
Yeah, I'll add one thing to what Holly was saying as well. Is I think when stand up first, caught on and started to take off, it was because of this imagery, right? I don't know if this picture is one, but the sunset paddle, the have a mimosa, chill out in the morning. And it was interesting at the last Surf Expo that we did. There was a sports analyst from ESPN, and she came up. She goes, I think one of the main attributions to stand-up paddles, takeoff velocity was that it was new, it was fresh. Seeing this stuff had a lot of energy, and she was like, from some of our research, it looks like it's becoming white noise. Some of the same pictures, the same stuff over and over again, and it's tough to get through when that's what you want, right? I mean, that's the visual. That's what sells it. And, we find ourselves in a spot where you don't want to be so progressive with the way that you deliver the message that you're kind of, dumping on what got you there. But at the same time, finding those ways to be progressive while maintaining the visuals is our biggest challenge for myself and I think the entire industry's approach, because by nature, stand-up is simple. I think that's what was attractive about it. And so if we take it out of that, which, I mean, I'm part of the, I'm to blame sometimes. Some of our stuff is pretty complicated. And I find myself going, our mission statement is stand apart through industry shaping innovation, fresh ideas, and simplicity to create a product that defines a lifestyle. And I got to play in those bounds, but I don't want to be so exclusive and not develop this community and this identity around it. And so that's the challenge, when you asked about challenges, that's what we face. And I know moving forward, it is going to be challenging to sustain that. So we as an industry don't become white noise, and we keep these, the energy up, right? And I think it's a challenge we all face.
Well, you are in no danger of becoming white noise, my friend. You're 100% prime time. So with that, are there any questions from you guys in the audience out there? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just curious how many of you who are listening are coastal versus inland. If you're coastal, will you raise your hand? And if you're inland? Yeah. So I don't know if this will resonate with you, but for me, I grew up coastal, and when I moved inland, it was tough. And when SUP started becoming popular, I finally felt home again. I finally felt like, okay, I can walk around in my board shorts and my flip-flops and not be a poser. And so I think inland, a lot of people are connecting with that lifestyle that connects us with a culture of that relaxed beach coastal feel that you get. And that's part of the nature aspect of it, that visual that you're talking about. I think that the visual is that laid back feel, that culture of lifestyle. And I think that really has a lot to do with not just the sport of it, not just getting on the board, but what it means to even wear the apparel, what it means to just being considered a paddleboarder is, yeah, I can walk around looking like a surfer and I'm not considered a dork because I'm inland.
That's cool. That is cool. Any questions from the audience?
Where's the beer?
That's okay. I don't necessarily have a question, but I'm wondering if you guys have had experience with this. So my husband and I started a paddleboard shop. We know Heather. We're friends with her. And one of the things starting out was we talked about it when we were making our business plan. We're like, okay, we don't want to have this famine mentality and be like angry with all of our competing, shops. So one thing we did was we specifically made sure that we went to these shops. We're like, hey, we're new and we want to be friends. And so when you guys run out of paddle boards, can you send them our way? And they're like, yeah, sure. And we're like, we'll do the same for you. Great. And so now we've got this beyond just the customer community. We have this community of like paddleboard shops, and we're all good friends now. Have you guys had experience doing that? And would you recommend it? Have you had any problems doing anything like that?
No, I actually had the same experience with you, because when everything was starting, I think everyone was just like, oh, what do we do here? And I don't know, it felt like everyone who was starting off in the early stages just had a really cool vibe with it. They were just passionate about it. It was before things were really big. When everyone started being like, well, I'm going to do that because I'm going to make lots of money. But people got into it because they just saw it was a beautiful thing. And so in my area in the Midwest, we did start collaborating together and had the exact same experience with you. And it has been nothing but amazing. And there's, of course, a couple people that refuse to cooperate. And what's happened is they've been shut out. But the rest of us literally rally together. My competitors come to my paddle events, our social events, and they just paddle along with us. They're not talking about their shops. I'm not talking about my shop, but we're all together. And people, they know indirectly who they are, and it connects with them. But man, everyone sees how the vibe is so positive and healthy, and they're like, I got to be part of that. So I love that you're doing that, because that cooperation and collaboration is exactly what we need for this sport, and just, I think retail in general, just stand-up paddleboarding itself just lends itself to that kind of nature. So congratulations for doing that.
So, yes, we are friends. Yay. And I've had also some similar experience where we have some retailers who want to play and some who are a little more keep off to themselves, and who are starting to come around now that they see that we're not really a threat. We're really not. But I like the word co-opetition. We're really co-opetition. We're going to attract different people as our customers, and being able to have someone to have my back, like, hey, I've got this event and I'm short 4 leashes, and to get 4 leashes shipped out in time is not going to happen. Can I rent them from you? And having other stores or other retailers or outfitters that have your back like that is really an awesome community. And you're right. I think that's part of the vibe of the sport, and is everybody's just a good, down-to-earth people usually in this sport. I don't know, like you said, if it's a sport that attracts the cool people, or if the cool people are there because of the sport. But
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. Scream it, and the people back there can hear it. Absolutely, and I think we both can talk to that. So the question was, are we converting the customers who are buying equipment, maybe at some more mass retailer, not doing the specialty, and then they're buying their initial board there and then converting to more of a specialty, going to the independents and supporting that. Absolutely, I'm having that experience. I know you are too, Heather. And that brings up a really good point too, because the mass retailers online, it's here. It is what it is. And we can stick our head in the sand, or we can create experiences and something different. And this is what we need to do. We need that. We need to offer something that is going to create value and stand out and make people want to shop us. And that's the one thing that online can't do, that a lot of these big boxes can't do. They can't. They will struggle with community. Not saying that they never can do it, but boy, good luck for them to try, because we can do that. We can create something that's different that they can't offer. So, yep, when you get those guys in there, and when Heather said earlier about, doesn't matter what board they are, whether they bought it from the cooperation, or I can't remember, co-opetition, next door dealer, whatnot, it doesn't matter, because you connect with them, and if they have that connection with you, you bet they're going to keep coming back to you and use you as the trusted resource. So
I've got something to
absolutely.
touch on that too. I think to your point about the kind of the low-end mass-produced stuff, I think the biggest risk as it relates to that is more on the rental side of things. I can't tell you countless times how many people, when I tell them that's what I do and all this stuff, they go, oh, I tried that, I can't do it. Yeah. Oh, I tried that, I can't do it. And man, I harp on retailers and people to the nth degree. I'm like, if you buy bullshit and you try to put people on it and they can't use it, you're done, right? I mean, you've destroyed that customer's experience. They're not going to tell anybody else to do it. They're not going to tell anybody else to do it. And they're certainly not going to go purchase a board, right? And I've seen it. I mean, dude, I hired a new CFO last September, and he was like, man, I can't do stand-up paddling. I go, what do you mean you can't stand-up paddle? He goes, I would love to, but I can't do it. I go, what did you? He was like, oh, I was in the Bahamas, and I tried this rental board. I go, dude, come on, big boy, let's go. So we went down to the water. He was like, oh my God, I've been missing this for this long. And I'm like, yeah, dude, that's what happens when somebody puts you on the right product for your size, something that you can actually use. And I think we're seeing customer erosion for the first time in stand-up paddle industry because of that. And it plays to that point, and it plays back to what these guys are talking about as it relates to the community, is that if that's amount of knowledge was available to people, that they knew, hey, I can't use this one because it's not designed for me. If they knew that, we'd all be better off. The issue is that unless it's achieved through these kind of guys in community doing things, it's not self-perpetuating. And I think that's the biggest challenge that we're going to face as an industry from the user standpoint, is that we got to have customer retention, and we got to have these guys wanting to do more and more of it. So I think that's a big part of that. Well, Tyler passed me the mic, so I don't know. Okay, go ahead.
So something that's been really successful for us that we love, our favorite thing to do is to educate and match people with the right boards on rentals as well as purchase. And so we have what we call our Try Before You Buy program. We have a wide selection of boards in our fleet, in our rental fleet. And when people are interested in purchasing, they can get something online, or they can go to a bigger box store that might have a cheaper price than we're able to offer. But what we can offer is hands-on experience and face-to-face relationship communication of education. And so we create programs where we can sit down, take them to the lake with a various fleet of boards that we feel like would be a match for them, and let them get on the different price point boards so that they are educated that you get what you pay for. And again, back to, it's fine if your price point is a low-end budget. It just shows them what reality is, what you're going to get for this price point. And it also helps them to understand, as far as, like you said, with their experience, are they getting on a board that's not going to fit them, that's not a match, that they're going to get out there? Maybe they spent a lot of money on their board, and they get out there and they're not having fun because it just wasn't the right size, or it wasn't the right shape for the glide or the cruise or whatever. They didn't understand the industry well enough to know what they wanted. And so we help them with that verbiage in that appointment. So our Try Before You Buy program has been really awesome to offer to people.
Well, guys, now that I'm the moderator for the meeting, since Tyler had to go to a meeting, I guess that's a wrap, I think. We went like 50 minutes, so it was all good stuff. Thanks to the crew. Thanks to Tyler for moderating and being out. And thanks to you guys for listening to our rambles. So we hope the paddle industry continues its success in all facets, and we all experience and the benefits and reap the rewards.
Cheers.
Now I need a beer.